guys, Ashwalker coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video, guys. I'm happy to have you here. Sending some positive vibes, some love your way today, especially if you need it out there. How you guys doing, by the way? I'm doing really well right now. I've been binging? I've never got into travel vlogs ever. It's never been like my thing, but I have been binging this dude named Drew Binsky. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of him. Check him out. The best part about his channel for me is that he visits all these places that, in a lot of different countries. For example, for where I'm from, right? We're taught to be like so scared of, right? But he's traveled to every single country in the world, and the connection that he can make with different cultures and really show you the true kind of day-to-day life of different areas of this world. To me, it is second to none and worth checking out if you're into that kind of stuff. Speaking of into stuff, I'm into rare champions. Call me crazy, but I like rares, man. I like finding value from rare champions in raid that, maybe not others do, right? And so I was looking at some tier lists today just to kind of, spur on an idea for a video. And I got to thinking about rares, right? And I saw on Hell Hades, by the way, whenever I pull up any tier list from any other creator, it's like not a, sometimes in the comments people are like, oh, shots fired.
Call the police.
No, I'm just giving me video ideas, right? Things to talk about, other people's opinions. I don't expect you guys to agree with all my opinions on the game, and I certainly don't agree with everybody else's, but it's nice to kind of have these conversations, and, using a website as a tool is a great way to do it. Anyway, if you rank on hellhades.com, which is a fantastic website, if you rank all the rares in order, I think that he criminally underrates some of my favorite rare champions, and I am a little bit biased. So I thought I'd share, I think there's 7 or 8 champions that I would put in my top 20. They're nowhere to be seen. As a matter of fact, only 2 of the champions I'm going to share with you guys are in his top 20, and all the champions that I share would be in my top 20. So he has Cold Heart, Kale, Renegade, Apothecary, Bellower, Coffin Smasher. I wouldn't put Coffin Smasher in my top 20 personally, because, you got to include the champions you take out too, at least a few of them, right? Fellhound, Frozen Banshee, Eris, borderline for me. Marquez, I would not put in my top 20. I think that now she's been power crept. A defense-based nuker. There's so many better ones out there that are not a rare. Painkeeper, Reliquary Tender, Shadow Bow, Turlac, the new rare. I'm kind of TBD on that. You guys like him? He wouldn't be in my top 20 right now, but I'm open-minded about him. We have Soulbound Bowyer, we got War Maiden, we get Aethel, Lavir the Alchmage, Bulwark, Castigator. So again, for me, Dagger, Dilgal, Doomscreech, Draconis. So you guys see all these rares, right? And I think there's so many, so many champions that I think are so good. And I want to ask you guys, right? Because again, beauty is in the eye of the proverbial beholder. So I want to see what you guys think. And instead of showing you in the champion,
if you don't take this offer right now, I will lose all respect for you and punch you.
Get out of here. Instead of showing you guys them in the champion index, I'm going to show you how I have these champions built, because these are champions, I think for the most part, I'll let you know if it's not the case with any of them, but I think they're champions that I still use, if not every day, then, at least in, Doom Tower, Secret Rooms, or stuff like that on those rotations. So let me go ahead and show you my rares, and I want to start with probably the most, well, in no particular order, but you guys know, if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you guys know how I feel about Khazard Depart, man. He's so freaking good, dude. There's only, like, how many champions? How many champions have increased accuracy on all allies? It's gotta be like 5 or 6, Lady Kimmy, Yoshi the Drunker. There's a few, but not that many, and certainly no rares other than Khazard Depart. Not only that, but he brings the weak version of decreased defense. It's a 3-turn cooldown. Increased accuracy is so freaking strong, whether you're in the early game, the mid game, or the end game. And then he has another AoE attack with Turn Meter Fail on a 3-turn cooldown, right? Then he has a decreased speed, big version, on his A1. Right? I mean, come on. So I throw this dude in a stun set on top of all of that, and my man, I picked up Fearsome Presence as well, an extra 5% chance to land a stun, right? From artifacts as well. So it's a 23% stun chance on all of his AoE hits, and he has 2 AoEs on a 3-turn cooldown. So my man is putting out damage, he's putting out debuffs, he's bringing increased accuracy, big version. Come on, man, decreased speed, big version. I think this guy is a stud. The only downside is his base stats, and that's going to be the case for almost every rare champion in the game. So there's no getting around that, guys. But, 12K is pretty low to be fair. 870 is pretty low to be fair. So he's a fragile little dwarf.
What did you say?
However, he's a really, really good one. So you can see how I have him built out here. To do a little bit of damage, I have crit rate on the gauntlets, not crit damage or anything like that. A little bit of accuracy to land his debuffs, a little bit of speed. That's about it. Not a crazy build or anything like that, but he's mainly there for control in that stun set with the 2 AoEs, plus the increased accuracy helps out so much because I have a tendency to build my rares a little bit shy of the accuracy they need in the end game secret dungeons. So for me, it helps out, but even a beginner could be helped out by Khazard having that increased accuracy. It's tremendous. It's a tremendous ability. All right, so Khazard definitely for me he's top 10 for me. He might be top 5 for me personally. So that's number 1. Number 2 is Executioner, dude. I slept on this guy for a long time. I think he's campaign farmable in like the second to last stage. Is it the last stage? Is it? I don't know. I think he's campaign farmable. I might be wrong there. It's either Judge or Executioner. Executioner who's campaign. I think it's Executioner. I love this dude, man. He's slow, but he's defense based, so he has a lot of defense, so it's easier to keep him alive compared to like a Khazard, right? On his abilities, check out my man for control. And for me, when I'm looking at a rare champion that I want to invest in, I want someone who's got a lot of control. That way I can ride them all the way into the end game through the secret rooms that are rare only. And again, it goes without saying, but I'll mention it again here. All these rares that I use for control, you can still use them for incredible value, even in the early game or in the mid game. It doesn't just have to be end game, but these are rare champions that I use on an end game account. So maybe I'm a little bit biased though. I don't know. You guys can tell me. An AoE attack on a 3-turn cooldown, decreased turn meter by 20%, and then has a 75% chance of putting a decreased speed for 2 turns. It's the weak version of decreased speed, and it is wonky that it scales on attack and defense. I hate that, man. He's a defense-based champion. Scale it on defense. It's still not bad damage. And, I mean, turn meter by 20% on a 3-turn cooldown with the decreased speed, even the small version, is a great control ability. And then he has an increased defense, counterattack on himself. It's a 5-turn cooldown, 7 unbooked, but who cares? It's not that big of a game changer ability, and it is a 3-turn duration on the buffs, and it gives him even more stuns coming off that A1. He's great for control, and then he has defense in all battles. To find a defense all battle aura out of rare champions, there's not that many, so he's got that too. So I run him as an aura lead, pretty much wherever I use him as well. I do have him in a stun set, but I don't have Fearsome Presence on this champion. I figured I would rather pick up War Master as my tier 6 because he does only have 1 AoE attack, but, he does have all these counterattacks, and, he has a stun anyway on the A1. And either way, I love Executioner. Anybody out there, big Executioner fan like yours truly? I think he's just a stud of a champion. All right, next up, and this is pretty much contractually obligated, right, that I include him. It's Ashwalker, man! The champion they made right after me. First you got Ninja, then you got Simple, you got Rowdy Ronda Rousey, MMA champion of the world, and then you got yours truly, a little mediocre Raid Shadow Legends YouTuber that he turned into a champion. That's really, really cool. You can tell he's got my eyes.
This is what I have to deal with every single day.
All right, so Ashwalker. Why do I love this dude so much? Besides the name, right? Talk about low HP. My man's got 10,000. He's got 10,000 HP, no big deal. Attacks 1 enemy, resets the cooldown a Devastator if you kill an enemy with the Great Hammer ability. The Great Hammer Smackdown, as I like to call it. Devastator on his A2. It's a 4-turn cooldown, but it's a really nasty ability. Attacks 1 enemy, especially for a 1 enemy attack, right? It's an 85% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn. Decrease the turn meters of all enemies by 10% as long as the attack is critical. He's void too, so it's, always going to be critical if you have a 100% crit rate on this champion. And then on his backbreaker, it's a hard-hitting nuke, and my man is bringing a weaken as well with that. All on a 3-turn cooldown, 100%, so basically kind of guaranteed, provided you have enough accuracy, obviously, on the weaken. So a really hard-hitting nuke here. He's got speed in all battles, albeit a 12%. Still speed in all battles from a rare champion. And he's great for not just a debuffer, not just damage, but also for that control. Again, I love the stun, and I love the turn meter there. For masteries, we went with Fearsome Presence to get that extra 5% out of that stun, as you guys can see. And yeah, nothing too crazy there in terms of masteries. I should pick out a Blessing, and I think I'm probably just going to go with... I noticed that I went with Dark Resolve on Executioner. Chance of blocking Freeze, Provoke, and True Fear whenever this enemy tries to place them, or whenever somebody tries to place them on this champion. I don't think I have a massive problem with him being hit with those. So I'll take the extra attack because he's an attack-based champion, and I'll take Dark Resolve as well. So Ashwalker definitely makes my list as well. This one's a shocker to me. that Elhain was not in the top 20. Because I think Elhain, I love Aethel and I love Kayle, don't get me wrong, but Elhain is the best of the starters in the endgame. So if we're, if we're evaluating just a good starter in the beginning, I think that Aethel, Kayle, I think that Aethel and Elhain are kind of on the same level. Just my personal preference. They're all decent. Even Galek you can get use out of, and he can deal some damage and debuff and stuff like that. I think Kayle's still the best because he brings the poisons, and that's so instrumental for Dragon and Clan Boss, which should be your big priorities in the early game. But in the mid and the late game, Elhain smacks. I mean, she's next level with her AoE attacks. Attacks one enemy and then all enemies. Increased crit rate she brings for herself, and then Valley of Death is a 3-turn cooldown, 2-time hitter. So obviously with 2 AoE attacks, I have her in a stun set as well. She's also very speedy at a 107 base speed. So I really like that about her as well. She can really start laying down all those stuns. I don't have her built incredibly fast here, but again, I mean, it's not an insane build, but it gets the job done. That's the magic of stun sets, right? So masteries, we did go again with Fearsome Presence. You'll see that's a personal favorite of mine. All right, speaking of personal favorites, guys, I have to mention Gnarlhorn, dude. We don't even have him masteried out.
Are you me?
He's got to be up there, obviously, after Ashwalker, but he's got to be up there after Khazard and Ashwalker as one of my personal favorite rares in the game. This guy is bonkers. He's super good. 17k base HP. He is an HP based champion. His damage though scales on attack, but the good news is we're not looking for any damage out of this champion. Any damage you do get out of him will be from the War Master procs if you select that mastery, unlike me, and don't go with nothing on the masteries. But my man here is one of the best, if not the best. I want to make sure I believe this. Yeah, I believe it. The best control champions out of any rare in the game. Criminally underrated Gnarlhorn. Old champion too. It's not like this is new or anything like that, but then he's so good. Anyway, attacks one enemy, decreases damage increases, according to how much HP this champion has lost. This attack cannot be strong, critical, or weak. Okay, it can't be anything. Either way, Ram is not really the highlight of his kit. It's War Drum. Plays a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, and a 30% increased defense on this champion. So we have a 3-turn provoke that's not predicated on a critical hit because we're placing this ability. There's no attack involved on a 3-turn cooldown from a rare champion. Not even a lot of epics can do that, but it gets way better. We have an unkillable buff on his A3 determined on this champion for 2 turns. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist doesn't need beautiful mind memes going on to realize that this dude is literally unkillable every 2 out of 3 turns. And he's provoking. So he's locking down the enemy team, then taking no damage after he locks them down. It's beautiful. And then to make matters even better, we have his aura, defense in dungeons by 27%. It's better than Apothecary. It's one of the best rare dungeon auras out there in the game. Not the best, but close to. Boy, oh boy, Gnarlhorn is nasty. He's a really good champion. One of my personal favorites. I would put Gnarlhorn top 10. Gnarlhorn top 10 and Khazard are the 2 champions out of the 7 or 8 I'm going to share with you that I would definitely personally consider a top 10 champion. All right, who's up next? This is kind of a new-ish. It's weird. They don't release rares anymore in this game, I feel like. So he's probably been in the game for over a year and I'm still considering him new. But anyway, Abyssal. I actually really like Abyssal. He's not the most OP. I don't necessarily like him as much as all the other champions that we've spoken about today, but I really think he has a basic kit. Then I don't have him half naked right now, but I still use him. I just have to mule around my stun gear on my account, right? He has an AoE, and this is a sneaky good block buffs on his A1, because sometimes I just have him use his AoE, and I'll shut off some of his other abilities, because I'm just trying to land stuns, so I put him in his stun set. You can see he has 3 out of 4 pieces right now in a stun set. So I kind of like Soulbound Boyer, who I'm not having on this list, because she was in the top 20 of the Hades list. But dude, he's just so dependent. He just keeps throwing out either stuns or a lot of block buffs. And there's so many waves in this game that have those annoying champions like Valkyries or whatever that like it's so annoying to get through the buffs, right? Let alone the Siphies as you get higher in like Doom Tower. So it's so nice to have that debuff on the A1 as well. And there's been so many times where you look at it, and at least for me, I'm like 30%, who cares at first, right? You pick up Sniper, it's a 35%. But then you just notice, you're like, wow, block buffs, help me out again, you know, like it's coming clutch for me. Then he has a heal on a 3-turn cooldown. It's not a great heal, but it's a heal, right? And then on the A3, we get an increased defense and increased attack on all allies. It's both the weak version, but don't overlook him because it's the weak version. If you don't have another champion, especially in rare-only places in the game, if you don't have another champion who's bringing increased defense or increased attack, well, you have it, you know? You have it at least for 2 out of every 4 turns. So it's better than nothing. So if I need this, I'll keep it on. If I don't need heals on my team, I'll just keep pounding away with the A1, as I mentioned earlier. So Masteries, I don't have any selected for him as well, but I would pick up Fearsome Presence again for that stun set synergy. You ever do this too, like guys? You ever forget to mastery a champion, then you look like a year later, like, huh?
Why are you naked?
I don't have any masteries for that champion. I'm losing track of my campaign farm. I know one is for sure. The other one, they're easy enough to get these rares. Eventually, you'll get your hands on all of them, hopefully, especially the non-voids. Banshee. So I talked about Banshee before, guys. I don't want to sit here and tell you that Banshee is a champion that everybody needs to go max right away, right? She'll always be there, you know? She's dependable, she's reliable. I took like 3 years before I invested in Banshee. But let me tell you, I think she's amazing. She's a really, really fantastic stunner, right? Put her in a stun set again. You can tell it's my favorite strategy with rare champions. Pick up Fearsome Presence as a tier 6 mastery. And look what she can do. On her A1, it's another AoE attack. And she has a 30% chance of placing a decreased defense. And again, there's not that many dependable debuffers for rares out there. And there's really only Fleshmonger, and it's a 75% chance of decreased defense for Magic Affinity. So if you don't have if it's a Magic Affinity rare, if you don't have Fleshmonger, Banshee, at least she brings the debuff, right? Not a high clip, but it's on her A1. On the A2, Cursed Touch, it's another AoE attack, and this one's super cool. We have a 65% chance of removing 1 random buff from each target on a 2-turn cooldown. Not bad. So an AoE here, an AoE there, and the A3, I don't even bother with it. It's not bad. It's a good control, but it's 2 times at random with a 50% chance of placing a block active skills. But as I said, I just shut this one off and I just alternate A1, A2, cooldown, A1, A2, cooldown. So I'm removing, buffs, and I'm placing some decreased defenses, but I'm placing a ton of stuns as well. I like Banshee, a good stun kind of specialist. She is very slow though, that's the only thing I don't like about her. At 92 base speed, would really like a little bit better on that one. Diabolis is the last champion, guys. And again, a campaign farmable champion, stage 12 in campaign, this is a tricky one. Again, I don't want to like tell you, kind of like with Banshee, right? She's top 20 for me because she's at one of the rares that I use quite a bit. However, I feel like she's a rare that benefits kind of mid to end game players and rare only content in this game a little bit more than beginners. If I had her, I would probably use her in Demon Spawn. I would probably farm her right away, but I'd probably just leave her at level 50 because she's a rare that you can use at level 50 just fine. On a 3-turn cooldown, I would book her for the cooldown. But on a 3-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, increase speed, especially if I was early game and I didn't have an apothecary yet, I would definitely invest. But her positive charge, her A3, is great for control as well, and just for, you know, pacing and a speed champion. Fills the turn meter of all allies by 15%, decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 15%. It's a little mini Deacon Armstrong, a little mini Lysandra ability. It's like the rare version of those abilities. But again, with the turn meter fill, the turn meter decrease, the increased speed, the AoE attack, sleep, no one's getting out of bed for a 20% sleep on the A1, you know, unless you're really desperate for a Sand Devil's Necropolis, but then wouldn't you just get Stalker, you know? Either way, guys, Diabolis to me, you could probably argue, to be fair, that she's maybe a top 30-ish rare, maybe top 20, stretching it a little bit, but I did want to give her a shout out because I've always been a fan of this champion, and the thing about her is she's the queen, she's the rare queen of speed, right? The king of speed's apothecary, I guess, right? But she also has 110 base speed. So she's very, very fast, and that's what we want out of our speed champions, our increased speed champions. We want them to go as often as possible. That way they're keeping that increased speed. It's obviously based off of their turn meter, right? Of their speed, how often they're casting it. And then hopefully we build her fast enough where we can keep increased speed as often as possible for 2 turns on all allies. Granted, on this build, it's not super impressive, but it's still 203, considering I only have 93 added, which is really, really nice. So those are my favorite, like, underrated rare champions in the game. I would love to hear from you guys. Do you have a favorite rare who you think the community at large criminally underrates as well? I'll include the website tier list for you guys as well if you want to go ahead and peruse and see if one of your favorites is mentioned a little bit too low for your liking. Thank you guys for watching till the end of the video. I appreciate you all, and as always, take care, guys.